Hello folks, this is Sarah Painty Creator, and I hope you're having a nice day doing whatever you're doing. So I've been looking at this with Hooker's Green and seeing what colours, just using that green tone through in the same way that we quite often use the same blue tone through, what colours we can make. So this is the plain Hooker's Green. It's not a very nice green to just work with plain. It looks a little bit artificial, but as you can see, if you add in different colours, you can get some really lovely, useful, different tones, all from our little usual box of cotton and watercolour paints. So this morning I painted this little one using those colours. Unfortunately my video didn't work very well, so I've had to bin it, but it's quite a nice sort of free landscape just using those colours. I took the paper off a little bit early, so it's not settled well. I might have to iron this one. All you need to do with that is to put it on a clean surface, then cover it with a clean dry tea towel, and then just iron the back and it'll come straight. But I like that one, I like the colour, so I'm going to pick up a similar sort of sky, but instead of doing a landscape I'm going to do a seascape for this one, but still using these tones because I really like those tones and I think they work really well, both for landscapes and seascapes. So grab your spritzer bottle and your watercolour paints and give them a good old spritz. Give them that wake up call. You want them nice and glistening, not wet through. Let them rest for a little minute. As always, I'm going to be using my mop brushes and probably my little rigger brush as well. I'm also, for this one, going to be using some masking fluid. So this one I'm going to use this little masking fluid from Sanilia. It's got a little applicator so I can get some nice thin lines, which is really helpful. But you can just put it on with a brush. If you're going to use a brush, as we've said before in other videos, put some liquid soap, some hand soap or some washing up liquid on your brush before you use it. In this there's a little fine piercing tool that you can keep your nozzle clear. So if you've got one of these, check where your little fine nozzle is and make sure you line it up well to keep that clean and clear. I'm also probably going to be using a little bit of wax. So this is just a little bit of wax crayon, and you never know, I might use my little bit of plastic bit of store card as well, because I like both of those. So grab your materials, some paper towels, some clean water, your brushes, wake your paints up, get your paper on. This is my usual Creative Peak paper, and let's create. Okay, so I've just sketched out just above a third of the way, so that would be about a third of the way, so just above a third of the way, so sort of the top of the water. This is going to be where my main waves are going to be, and I'm just changing the angle a little bit for this bottom wave. So I'm just going to grab my masking fluid, and I'm going to put a little bit of masking fluid up on this top wave that's in the distance, so just tiny bits. run some really gentle lines through. The gentle lines you could do with a little bit of wax, that's fine. So here we go, I'm just going to create the top of the wave, on it nice and uneven. And it's important to just let the wave, the bottle dance a little bit, just like we do with the paintbrushes. Just let the bottle dance across the page, building a bit of a bigger splash of a wave here. And just letting some of that run down. So building up this wave shape. Maybe a little bit of run back here. And just let it dance. And it's an imprecise art form, so you're just building up where the white of the paper is going to be retained to keep some of the white of the wave crest. Let's get rid of that bubble. Pop on some splashes. Here's my little brush that I do this work with. There's too much here, so I'm just letting it do its thing. It is painting, it's just playing with what you've got. You're wanting some holes and gaps. In. So I want this to be my main, main wave, but I do want a couple of others to be sort of coming along. I want that sort of curve as the wave goes over the top, that it gets a really nice shape. So I want to emphasize that shape for some of them. So you know the score now. We need to just let that dry, and it must dry naturally, because otherwise you end up with it sort of fusing to the paper. So don't be tempted to let it dry any other way. You must be patient, so go and put the kettle on, or put your feet up, or have a little nap or anything, and let it dry naturally, and then we'll come back to it. Now I've come back to you just at the point when the majority of it is dry. Now if you want a smooth wave top, then don't do this bit. If you want your wave tops to just feel like they've got a little bit more life, then just as they're drying, give them a rub with your finger and disturb the drying, so you're maintaining the shape, but because you're disrupting a little bit of the masking fluid, it will leave gaps that are more natural. And pull it the direction that you want, and it just creates a little bit more of a natural feel. And stops too many of those straight line feelings in the waves that you don't really want to get, but that you want that sort of sense of direction. Again, it's one of those things, it's a bit of trial and error. You can form the edge of your shape running your finger along. And once I've done with this, I'm just going to let it dry properly, because there's some bits that are still wet before I start painting on it. But it's a good way of getting some direction in your waves, because it's really difficult to get that direction. And that sense of movement without a lot of faffing and I ain't got the energy to faff. So I have to find ways around it. So this is my way around it. So I've disrupted it. I'm going to let it dry now. here we are, I've just taken all the masking fluid off, and you can see that we've got some really nice bits of wax resist. So obviously they will stay white regardless. And then we've got some nice shapes and movement in the waves that we can then work with. So I've just changed my water because I really don't want the mess of the water to damage the white and potentially some of this dark, that I might darken a bit more. If you're a beginner, that would be fine to leave like that, but if you want to do a little bit more, then either get yourself some gouache or some acrylic white. I might get acrylic white today, or Dr. Martens bleed proof, and I don't know where my Dr. Martens bleed proof's gone. And then you can enhance the waves. I'm going to get some acrylic just for a change today. Okay, so I'm just going to use some white opaque acrylic, and I always use paper for my acrylic to go onto, and then I can just throw it away, because if I put it into my my palettes, it actually just stains the palette and sticks to the palette, and I can't get it clean. If you're better than me at that, that's fine, but I'm not, so it's where I'm at. So a blob of acrylic on my palette, and I'm going to just because I don't normally use my mop brushes with my acrylic paint, I'm just going to get a different brush, one that I don't use as often, that we can have a play with and I'm not overly bothered about. So I've just got a hold of a number 10 round. So straight off here I can add a little bit of water into there. Let me just check the camera position. Okay, so I'm just going to enhance this a little bit. Not too much, because it's in the background, but I felt it sort of stopped a little bit abrupt and there were some harsh edges there, and that bit as well. So really we're on to this one, and I like the texture that I can make with acrylic. I want to keep some of these darker tones, but I also want to have that feel of movement on the wave. And as you can see, acrylic will go over the top. As will gouache, just to enhance some of that wave. Always thinking about the direction of your brush strokes. I love mixed media pieces. Feels like a ballet. children are playing out at it's school holiday time here. I love listening to them play. Maybe gouache would have been better for this. I don't know. We'll see. I'm just going to put some water into my acrylic now. I'm just going to put some, oops, cover that sky up a little bit. Some splashes. Coming off. And getting covered, which is always quite good fun. Okay. Quite like that. So some time to go in and just mix up now. So I think I've finished with my acrylic. I need to give my brush a really good wash off. Use my brush cleaner and preserver. Especially when I've used acrylics with brushes, because they do dry hard. So it just helps lift the remnants of the paint out. And then we're back to a clean brush. It's nice. You can just reform the point. It's nice and soft. Lay it down to dry. That's the brush cleaner and preserver that I use. So, time for my little mud brush. So I'm going to mix up some dark now. So still with this green. Ultramarine. And some burnt sienna. Remember, if your paints have dried out, give them a spritz. I'm going to just drop in so you can paint onto the acrylic. Keep washing your brush. So I want some thicker. I'm going to put in some Payne's grey into this. A bit more green. Pull some of that up there. Soften it off. Just Payne's grey, touch of that green, just to harmonise it. Okay, I'm going to let that dry off and then have a look again. Okay, so we're near enough dry. So I just want to soften this through so it looks less like it's just stopping. So I'm just going to grab our sort of greeny bluey mix and just run and push it in. Harmonises that a little bit. And then I'm just going to go on top of the acrylic in little places, and as it dries it'll just add here a little bit to pick up that sense of different tones. deepen it. You just have to be careful and patient. So in a minute I'm going to put the hairdryer on this, and that will just help because the acrylic's not totally dry, and it'll just help it pick up. I wish I'd used some gouache now, because I prefer doing this with gouache over the top. It's a lot more responsive. But I didn't, so you have to just go with what you've done in life. Sometimes hindsight's a great thing, and I do try and sort of show you warts and all on here. But this sort of playing around with the different tones just helps breaks up some of the brightness. Okay, because it's a dark sky, we don't want a bright sea. So I'm going to get the hairdryer on that, and then we'll see how we're doing. So there we go. Hairdryer's on, and it fixes it enough. Another little tip, especially if you like doing multimedia work. So my last little bit really is to pop on some birds, because I like my birds in my, particularly in my sea paintings. So I'm just picking up some Payne's grey, taking the on with my 0 mop brush, taking the excess off on my paper towel, and I'm just going to do some really small distant birds up on this corner, and then maybe one slightly bigger there. So a little flock. My grandson says that's the best bit about being at the seaside, seeing the seagulls. And then I'm going to put one up here. There we go. Quite like them in a little flock. Oh, that one was a blob. That means call it a day. So, I hope you've enjoyed that. That's been quite good fun to do. I'm going to take the masking tape off. Oh, I need to remember to say like, subscribe, comment, share, all the rest of it. Pull the masking tape away from your work, because if it rips, it at least rips away from your painting. And I do like it when we've taped down the painting, because I do like that sort of. Let's see what it looks like. Actually, I think that's quite a nice little seascape. We've done quite well there. So, same palette. green. To create a different view. So I hope you have a happy time painting and look forward to seeing you all soon. Bye bye.